right, so in this next example, we're going to talk a little bit about our mean and our standard deviation. We're going to find this using StatCrunch. StatCrunch does give us a lot of information when we're going through this. Again, as I already mentioned, you are going to want to take a look online to see an extra PDF that shows these steps to walk through in StatCrunch, and also a link to an additional video for this example. So there will be a computer video showing what's going on the computer screen in order to work through this example as well. All right, so according to GasBuddy.com, the prices of 1 gallon of regular gas at 12 service stations in a neighborhood in Austin, Texas were as follows on one day in October 2013. And then we see this list of 12 values. So what we're going to do in StatCrunch, first thing we're going to just enter all of these data values into a column. Right, then once we do that, we're going to go into StatCrunch and we're going to use kind of the key things that we're going to go through here. We're going to select Stat, then we select where it says Summary Stats, and then the column of data that we are looking at. Again, you can find an additional video and PDF walking through these steps visually online to get these values. It's a little different than if we were doing it in a normal classroom and I was walking through the problem on the board right in front of you guys. So you'll just have to take a look at that other video. That will give you an idea of where these values are coming from. All right, so once we plug those values into StatCrunch and we hit our summary stats, what we see is going to be a little table that is very, very similar to what we see here. The only thing I did is I didn't include the mean or the standard deviation that we got in the summary stats. But other than that, I literally just copied and pasted from StatCrunch into the notes here to get these values. So notice that the first thing it gives us is the column. So if you give your variable a name, which I do, I give my variable a name of gas prices. That shows up in our column. N is our sample size. Our sample size is 12. Our mean is going to be the next value that it gives us. This is going to give us a mean value of 3.018. Again, if you take a look at that other video showing the StatCrunch steps online, or that PDF, you'll be able to see where this is coming from. Something called variance, which we're going to briefly mention, but not do a lot with this semester, but we are going to briefly mention it. Standard deviation, definitely something that we're going to use over and over and over again in this section and the next. So we want to be able to pick that value out. Standard error, again, something else that we're going to mention, but not necessarily talk a lot about right now. And then we see other values, median, which we're going to talk about in section 3.3. Range, which we're also going to talk about. Our Q1 and Q3 are going to be other values that we're going to talk about later on in this chapter. So for right now, if you're using StatCrunch, what we want to practice and what we want to focus on are our mean and our standard deviation. All right, so what we want to do is we want to explain our mean and standard deviation in context. Right? So again, in context means interpret. So we're going to say the typical price of 1 gallon of gas at these gas stations in Austin, Texas was. Right, so what we've just done here is we've used our word typical for our mean, right? And then we explain what we're talking about. In this example, we're talking about the price of 1 gallon of gas at these gas stations in Austin, Texas. Right, so we're adding context. Right, now we're actually going to throw in our number value. Our mean is 3.018, but we're going to round it to normal dollars and change. So we're going to say $3.02 on this day in 2013. Right? So we didn't give just a number answer. We explained it in context, dealing with what we see in our problem. Right, now we're going to do the same for our standard deviation. Right? Explain what the standard deviation value means in context. So we're going to start by saying most. Right? And again, remember, most means about 2/3. Right? Whether or not you put that about 2/3 in there, it's up to you. Right? We don't necessarily need the quotes in our answers, but we use the word typical and most. So we're going to say most of the gas prices are within. Right, so we look at our standard deviation here. Again, we're thinking dollars and change. So we could round this to 8 cents, or we could say 7.8 cents, right, of the mean price of $3.02. Right? So we just took our interpretation from example A and then built on that a little bit. Right? So our average, our center, our typical price, right, $3.02, and most of the gas prices should be within 7.8 cents, or we could round it to about 8 cents of our mean price. As you're going through and you're working through the homework, again, as always, make sure that you are rounding carefully and doing as you're told when you are filling in the homework problems.